Hello, my name is Bradley Gavin, and I'm going to talk to you today about how Pentagon can drive more traffic to their website and how they can actually keep this traffic on their website. I'll begin by providing some insight into Pentagon themselves as a company before assessing the tasks that they would like me to actually accomplish. I'll then move on to summarising my findings from the data that has been given to me, and last but not least, I will look at areas for improvement and suggest ways in which Pentagon can better their site and online presence as a whole. Any references to other ideas and theories can be found at the end of this presentation. Pentagon are a company based in the southeast of the UK. They currently offer project management training courses and consultancy services to clients. At present, they have an employer that has implemented various e-marketing strategies and tools already. However, profitability is still falling for the company. Competition in the market is high and it is saturating. Therefore, the social media profiles and the company website become a massively important tool for Pentagon to communicate with its customers. The managing director is concerned that the time and money being invested into this form of marketing is not reaping the rewards. The challenge presented, therefore, is quite obvious. After analysis of the data, I need to suggest viable ways in which Pentagon can improve both their website and their online presence as a whole. The first selection of data I received was the number of visits for the months of March, April, May, and June. As you can see from the chart I have created, the total number of visits for each month varies. For March, represented by the purple on the chart, the total number of visits was 783, and the average number of visits for this month was 25.26. For April, represented as orange on the chart, total number of visitors increased substantially to a total of 1,451. The average number of visits in this month was 48.37. The number of visits increased again in May, represented by the blue on the chart, totaling 1,869 visits, with an average number of visits reaching 60.29. Finally, in June, represented by green on the chart, the total visits were at 767, with an average of 69.73. It's important to bear in mind that unfortunately the data provided only ran to the 11th of June. They only ran halfway through the month. So it was an incomplete month, and that is a limitation to the data that I did have. However, it would be likely to improve even further beyond the 767 views they already have if it was to follow the trend set by the previous 2 months. There are a number of reasons for low number of visits. Firstly, businesses. They may decide to structure their training and only outsource training in certain months of the year. And this is probably at a time when perhaps they are less preoccupied with the running of their own business. As an outstretched example of this, if you take a toy retail shop, they are likely to have busy periods between the summer months when children aren't at school and at Christmas when obviously parents are buying presents for their children. So therefore, at those times in the month, they're quite unlikely to not want to outsource their training or undertake any training of any sort at that time, just because of how busy they would be. Another reason for a drop in the number of visits in any month may be due to an increase of organisations developing their own training schemes and or internal courses. So this would save organisations costs on training, and it would eliminate the need for Pentagon altogether in reality. And competitors, they may also offer similar services to Pentagon, and I think this highlights the need for Pentagon to deliver the best quality service possible, thus to retain customers and keep them coming back. As we move on, we come to the data for the number of visits by browser, and the data I actually received also included pages per visit, average visit duration, the percentage of new visits, and the bounce rate. My summary of findings are as follows. So as you can see, the Pentagon website was visited the most on the Chrome web browser, represented by the largest bar in the bar chart. And this is probably perhaps attributed to the fact that it was the most commonly used web browser for April 2012 and March 2012 as well. And these figures came from StatCounter.com, and they actually are the most commonly used browser this year as well for March and April 2013. The Pentagon website was viewed the least, as you can see from the smallest bar on the BlackBerry 9000 with just 3 visits. And this was perhaps due to the fact that this phone is rather outdated now, having been released 5 years ago in 2008. Unfortunately, no browser registered more than 2 pages per visit, and this is reflected in the high bounce rate. And in addition to this, the average visit duration was under 2 minutes on every browser, again reflected on the higher bounce rate. Moving on. Percentage of new visits for each browser was no less than 85%, which means it's extremely high and only 15% were returning customers. And this emphasizes the need for Pentagon to deliver a good service and have an amazing website that runs alongside this service so that customers that use the website are returning ones. And Masterson and Picton in Marketing and Introduction suggests that current relationships with customers, or in this case clients, are more important than prospective relationships with customers. As previously mentioned, the bounce rate is pretty high and the average is 88.08%. And the bounce rate is a percentage of visits that go only 1 page before exiting the site. So if a customer was to come onto the home page, it was no good, they couldn't find what they're looking for. If they left straight away, then that would reflect in a high bounce rate. And on the other hand, customers may get all of the information they need from their landing page, or the website may well be a single page website anyway, so again, this may reflect a high bounce rate, but it doesn't necessarily express the quality of your website as a whole. And more crucially, Pentagon must ensure that the tracking code is applied to each individual page on the website so it can be measured. Avinash Kashvik, who is a Google employee, also emphasized the need to take care and nurture all of your pages. And a lot of businesses at the moment see the home page as a kind of holy grail of the website, and if that's no good, then they can kind of scrap it all. But actually, all pages are important because not all of your customers are going to land on the home page. Their landing page may be your contact page, a meet the team page, or your blog, for example. And a quote that he added to this was actually, your homepage is not the homepage of your website. And he constantly emphasizes that throughout the video. Lastly, I received figures for the number of visits by source, and again I've put this into a graph in order to make the information more digestible and easy to read. And as you can see, it was accessed through the Google search engine more than any other site, and this is quite surprising actually, because the managing director suggests how much money they've wasted, and Facebook is the second most visited website on the internet, and Google is the first, yet Facebook has retrieved the lowest number of visits as a source. And as I said, Google is the most visited website on the internet, and it's followed by Facebook. And that information comes from Alexa, who is a leading provider for free global web metrics. And it's also clear that, as I said, Pentagon website is not often accessed through social media platforms. And I'll go into why such networks are so important for e-marketing of any business as a whole, let alone Pentagon, on the next slide. And there is, however, more people come in on the website directly after Google. And there might be a number of reasons. They might be returning customers, for example, that already know of the website, and they may well have bookmarked it and favorited it, so they can access it straight away. It may come from referrals, and people can pop it straight in their browser, or it might even come from having a business card and typing it in that way. So as we've identified, there's various areas that need to be improved on the website and in order to lever the online presence of Pentagon as a whole. The first is obviously the number of visits each month. An increase in the number of visits represents an opportunity for growth online, so therefore it's quite crucial. And one way in which this can be done is by introducing special deals at certain times of the year. And I think it's important to assess what your customers are doing, your competitors are doing at the same time. So you can see when they're offering deals, what kind of deals they're offering, and then you can tailor your own deals to fit around your customers' expectations and wants. And of course, such deals need to be advertised in the right way as well across the platforms, TV, radio, whatever you feel is right or need to do. And a drop in visits would suggest that content on the site is not updated often as well. Therefore, the website has to be regularly updated, and I think that showing care in your website's content conveys a message to your customers that you care about them as well. And when updating the website, even the small details matter. Colours, for example, can carry various connotations and how your brand or how Pentagon is perceived. And this is again emphasised in an article written by Leo Wildrich, and he states the same thing in his article Why is Facebook Blue? And that can be found in my reference list. Another way to improve the visibility and appeal of the Pentagon website, in my eyes, is to introduce a blog. And a blog can help customers get a feel for what it is your business does and is doing at the very moment. And through the blog, Pentagon can include client reviews, employee testimonials, and other visual videos. And a more visual, interactive website is likely to keep people on it longer, visiting more pages. And I think keeping people on the site longer is crucial for Pentagon because, as we looked at earlier, the average time spent on a website is under 2 minutes, which isn't very long at all. As we move on, we consider the number of visits by browser as well. And as pointed out earlier, the most used ones are Chrome, Internet Explorer, and Safari. But in an ever-changing and more mobile environment, it's crucial that Pentagon develop a site that works on all platforms. So not all customers are going to access the Pentagon website through a desktop PC, for example. So adapting the look, feel, and usability of the site for different browsers, or mobiles, or tablets is pivotal to its success. And they might even want to develop an app. To extend the outreach again even further, aside from the obvious source of how people get onto Pentagon website is predominantly through Google search engine, and it wasn't so much through Facebook and Twitter. And I think the social media presence, they need to elevate themselves onto that far more. In the UK alone, over 50% of the population are on Facebook. That comes from socialbakers.com. Therefore, it's evident that it's a massive market, and setting up a Facebook and perhaps even a Twitter business account is a sure way for Pentagon to communicate with customers on a consistent basis, and consequently, this should develop relationships and lead to inquiries and booking. As we mentioned previously, the bounce rate is fairly high, and Pentagon undoubtedly want their customers to stick around and view lots of pages as opposed to just the one, hopefully leading to an eventual inquiry and conversion. And some tips I've found from Nick Eubanks, who wrote an article on this, included the following. So he suggested that we probably should avoid pop-ups, and it's a bit of a no-brainer, but customers do find them annoying and disruptive of their experience. Make the navigation of the site easy to follow, so people want to find the content they're looking for with ease. So dissect and segment the information so it's not all just on one page, and it's clear and it's tabbed so they can find it as easily as possible. Try and ensure that your website loads in good time. There would be nothing worse than visiting the website and having to wait 5 minutes for it to load, because personally I would have left the site by now and gone elsewhere, and I think the majority of most customers would have done the same. And the other suggestion he had was to embed an internal search engine. It keeps them on the site, it's easy to accommodate, and at the moment web users have become used to searching for what they are looking for. So it's quicker than coming back out, going onto Google and researching if they can do it on your site. And lastly, I think the most important thing is to know what the customers want. So ask them on Twitter and Facebook, put out surveys, direct mail, because asking customers allows you to collect qualitative information as opposed to quantitative. And quantitative is good for assessing data, but qualitative information can't necessarily come from numbers alone. And that concludes my presentation. Here are my references.